Welcome to Diggin with Deej. How is everybody? Let me see who's in my chat. We've got, I believe the first one in my chat, as far as I can go back, I think was Randolph Relic Recovery, if I remember right. Then there's Team Clambake, Mark Thomas, scroll down, Cynthia Swearingen. Scrolling down, Darby's Down Home Detecting, welcome. And we've got Paranormal Explorers, welcome. Jimmy Cloak, Javier, welcome, guys. Bill, Papa Roos, What's in the Dirt? Alabama Dirt Digger, Finding Alabama. I think I said Paranormal Explorers. Linda Wallace, welcome. Archaeology Mikey 007, welcome back. Still scrolling. Let's see. David Carlisle, welcome back. Damon, one of my guests. Mark DeBerg Hunter, thank you for today's super chat and my previous super chat I received from you. Let's see, still scrolling. I think Starry Lock, welcome. Welcome back. Bobby Henniger. Oop, it just jumped on me. Welcome. Amy Lynn Fisk, welcome. Ray Gonzalez, welcome back. A.P.P.S Variety Channel, welcome. Okay, did I miss anybody? Venture to Low, welcome back. Let's see. I'm still scrolling. 17 in my house. Thank you so much. So everybody introduce yourselves to each other. You're going to hear the ding because Mark Thomas will be taking down your questions throughout the live stream. If you have a question, it needs to be in all capital letters. Okay? And then he will send me. Oh my goodness. Damon's got a storm hitting him right now. He just sent me a video. I don't know if you can see it or not. Well, it's not go. It is pouring in New York. Wow. We got storms about to hit us too. So what happens when we lose power here is the lights go out, and within 30 seconds, my home generator will kick in. As long as cable is not shut down and I have power, we should still be good. Crossing my fingers because we got storms coming too. So I'm going to keep that open to Mark Thomas. So welcome to Diggin with Deej, and this is my treasure hunting live stream. Some of you may be new to my channel and wonder, what does the paranormal have to do with treasure hunting? Well, 80%, 85% of my permissions are in the path of an 1800s tornado's destruction. And I've had some strange experiences and found some strange things. The first strange thing that happened to me, I was digging in a farmer's dump that was in the path of this tornado. And I dug up a old mason jar, 100-year-old mason jar filled with creepy, morbid newspaper clippings of deaths. Okay. And then the second thing that happened to me was I have a cellar hole permission I've been digging in for almost 3 years or a little more. And I've had somebody talk to me. And I get up and I look around the cellar hole. I climb up out of the cellar hole and there's nobody there. And they're always asking me, why are you digging or what are you looking for? You know, so I've had 3 experiences like that at the cellar hole. Well, I think it was in December. Well, in the fall, we put up trail cameras because I had discovered somebody was digging in the cellar hole without permission. And we were trying to capture their image to identify who it was. And I captured a weird clip. So I did a video on it with all the wildlife that goes through there with this strange clip asking my viewers, my viewers, what you thought it was. And I had over 2,400 comments. And one of the comments that I got for my creepy time capsule video was from Damon. And that's how I met Damon. And he gave me some good suggestions to put it back where I found it, say a prayer over where I buried it, you know, put it back exactly where it was. And no bad things have happened since. Knock on some wood, which I don't have any. Well, there's some. So that's how I met Damon. And Damon and Sue have been my guests twice before on my live stream, and everybody seemed to really enjoy what they had to say. And Don and I were at Flash Bash the first weekend, I think it was, of June. And that same weekend, Damon and I are chatting because he's packing to go to this investigation of Russia Union Church. And that is located in Herkimer, New York, to do an investigation, to metal detect the grounds and paranormally investigate. So let me bring in my guests and I will let them introduce themselves. Okay. We're going to bring in Damon first, and Sue, and then Sandy.
Hi,
welcome.
Guys. Thank you.
Hello.
So Damon, you want to start off introducing yourself?
Hi, my name's Damon. It's been a month since my last detection.
Look at Sue.
Somebody needs to put a buffle.
Look, it's been a long month.
I bet. I bet.
So, yeah, I'm Damon. I'm the founder and manager and whatever else you want to call me of Adirondack Park Paranormal Society and A.P.P.S Relic Seekers. Let's see. That's about it for me as far as, my name and stuff. Sue?
How long have you been doing your paranormal?
Oh, okay. So the team I started the team in 2008 under a different name. Changed it over to the name it is now in 2011 because there's a team with a similar name, so the anagram was kind of the same. So we changed names in 2011. I've been doing it ever since. We're pretty much the only kind of game in town at this point. Everybody else is kind of
fizzled out.
Yeah, gone by the wayside, so to speak. So we've pretty much cornered the market in the northeastern New York State. And then as we were talking when I first met you, Deej, we realized that there's some ties and some links between what we do in metal detecting, and then we've kind of expanded the team and created the second team, which is A.P.P.S Relic Seekers, which does more of metal detecting, relic recovery. We're starting to get into assisting with evidence recovery, and we're dipping our toes in the water with cold cases. and the whatnot. Since there seems to be a high volume demand for that lately. Literally, I got like 5 emails in the last month asking us if we could help them assist with a cold case. And even though we're not there yet, I was like, yeah, this is good, but we're not quite to that level yet. But you know, this is that's where we're kind of growing to.
Right. Sue?
Well, I started on the paranormal team completely by accident. Damon was doing a research on a hotel that I worked at for years, and he had put a blurb out on Facebook. Does anybody know any
that bait out there? I'm dragging.
And he pulled me right in. And so I said, well, these things have happened to me at this hotel. And he said, give me a call. We called, talked for an hour and a half. He said, would you like to go to the investigation? Well, hell yes. And the rest is kind of history. And that was about 10 years ago.
2014, so it's 8 years. No, 9 years.
9 years, almost 10. Yeah.
Sandy?
Well, I have always, I guess you could, I am a medium. I didn't always know I was a medium. Things would happen to me my whole life. I'm also an empath, and I was very introverted my whole life. And I've had experiences my entire life, but didn't realize what they were. A lot of people just sort of brush them off as something else when they don't know what they're really dealing with. Always been interested, I guess maybe obsessed a little bit with the paranormal world and all of the Halloween and haunted things. And just really started doing official investigations about 1.5 years ago. I, of course, would drag my husband to every haunted place in the world, including Gettysburg, which I did see a mention of Gettysburg in the chat. Have a great EVP from the Cashtown Inn in Gettysburg that I'd love to share sometime. That was a Class A EVP. That was pretty amazing. I love Gettysburg. It's like a second home to me.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I love it down there. We're actually trying to get down there again in the fall. And so I have known Dennis, who is the founder of my group, Fort Schuyler Paranormal Society, for several years now. We kind of joke about it, I used to kind of stalk him a little bit because he's a local author and I loved all of his books. And so I would go to all of his lectures, his talks. And we sort of crossed paths over and over again during the years while he was with another group, his previous group. And he had asked me last year if I'd be interested in doing a sort of an internet TV type show called Ghost Pubs and Grub with him, where we go and we investigate local, regional restaurants and haunted places. And I said, sure, I'll do it. So we did that. That's where I actually met Sue. Yeah. Fell in love with Sue right away. We just kind of really clicked and we had a great time.
Sue has a tendency to chase the bait, as you haven't noticed so far.
Not my fault.
Dennis had been working with A.P.P.S for quite a while, and so we sort of started to meld in. And when we formed our own group, that's when I met Damon and everyone when we investigated the Russia church. And that was quite an experience. So it's sort of been a weird, windy road for me. As far as being a medium, I also say that I'm a paranormal investigator just as much as I would be a medium. I think the two go hand in hand. You can't have one or the other if you really want to fully understand a situation or a location. So I love the scientific part of it. I love the personal experience part of it. And I like to put those together as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm what they call, I am an empath, a healer, and I also am mostly clairsentient, which means I can detect emotions, feelings in the energy. I can tell whether an energy usually is male or female. I'm claircognizant, which means things will come to me. Names come to me a lot. I'll get mental pictures. It's not like the Dead Files. I don't see or speak to spirits, really. I may be able to if I tried, I guess, but I don't really do that. But that's me. I love investigating, and I'm so glad to be able to work with these guys because they're just fantastic. Just love them.
Mm-hmm. So, Damon, how did you get the permission to go to Russia Union Church?
Actually, it was Dennis's team was the lead team on that. So
Mhm.
Dennis actually called us up and said, "Hey, I got this cool, creepy haunted church that was, mentioned kind of, sort of in one of my other books, and I want to do a bigger chapter on it in this book. What do you guys think?" And of course, Sue and I were like, let's go.
It's a bucket list kind of place. It's a bucket list place.
And then we went to our team and told them what it was about. And, we haven't been on an investigation over a year. So they were all like, let's go. So, yeah, that's pretty much how it ran. So
we could do both on this particular investigation. Yeah. So we did the relic seeking and we did the paranormal investigating. It kind of went hand in hand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the first half of the day, when we got there the night before. For first half, the morning, we spent out. There was 4 of us, Sue, with detectors. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You, me, Brett, and
no, 3 of us.
3 of us had detectors, but I had my spare. So
you had your spare. A couple of the other team members kind of played with it because they didn't know if they were going to like it or not. But that's why you brought the extra one along.
But we ran for a little bit. I'd say probably a good 2-3 hours.
Yes.
We had some interesting finds, but we also had a lot of mineralized soil, and we actually discovered along the way that somewhere within the property there was well water spillage, which was making contact with some sort of electrical conduit nearby, which was actually like supercharging the ground. So my poor T2 was going ballistic for a good portion of the day. The closer I got to that well pump. So but we did get some good. What did we find? We found a patent plate. We found almost pristine square nail.
Yes, in the back of the schoolhouse.
Behind the schoolhouse on the property.
We found a stash, literally a stash of the old nails and whole. But you guys found the metal placard.
Yeah, it was probably a good 20 feet off from where you guys found that little stash of nails and stuff. But there was a placard from an old fuel oil tank, which they haven't had fuel in the property or a tank of that nature in probably a good 30-40 years. So wasn't a period find, but at least it was something that wasn't like last year's stuff, which we found a lot of that because they actually redid the roof in the church the year before, and we were pulling drywall nails and everything you can think of, scrap, roofing nails and scrap. Yeah.
The metal roof nails and stuff like that.
So between that and the hot ground and everything else, it was we discovered where things were and where it wasn't. We marked out. I think we found every single electrical conduit and pipe that was underneath that runs between the schoolhouse and the church that day.
It was a perfect line. We use flags when we're metal detecting.
Yep.
And I don't know if we got a picture of it, but there was a perfect line. And I went over it once. Brett, one of our other investigators, went over it once, and it was perfect. Okay, that's what that is, so we can rule that out. You know, and that's part of why we do what we do, so we can rule in or rule out.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the original reason we got the detectors in the first place for the team, was so that way we could say, okay, well, there's an electrical conduit or some sort of electrical conduit or something, pipe or something here that's affecting our equipment. So we can kind of, take that as a baseline when we're doing our investigations. And then, beyond that, then it's something completely different. If we're still getting, hits after that, then, we got to dig a little deeper, so to speak. No pun intended. But we have discovered in the process that, especially watching like your channel, several other channels, that people have unearthed relics within a property. I saw somebody in the chat earlier saying something about a Wiccan wish coin or prayer coin or medallion. Those things happen a lot, more than you'd think. And those tend to have an effect on investigations as well. So that's why we've kind of integrated that into our inventory, so to speak, the metal detectors, and we back it up with dowsing rods and stuff like that if we think it's a water line or a natural spring or something like that.
Right. Well, Damon and I are wearing our MMD shirts, Michigan Metal Detectives, because we are both my channel and both their groups, A.P.P.S and A.P.P.S Relic Seekers are all affiliates of Michigan Metal Detectives.
Awesome.
So, and Damon also swings the T2 Plus, just like I do.
Actually, that was the main machine we used down there that weekend, because that was the deepest detector we had of the 3 or 4 rigs we had. We had that one. I forget. We had your Ace 250 was down there.
350, yeah.
350. We were running a Simplex, and we were running just a Bounty Hunter Quicksilver. Yeah. And of all those, I think the T2 was really distinguishing in
yes.
Picking out the stuff over the mineralized soil and the hot rocks and stuff like that. Which that's my go-to when we're going for relic seeking anyway, is the T2.
Yep, because we can manually ground balance that machine.
Yeah, that was when I reached out to figure out what machine I wanted, and Ray actually from MMD reached back out to me. He said he was like, "Look, this is what I'm looking for. What do you got?" And he's like, "You want the T2 Plus?" And I've sworn by that from the get go. I mean, I bought a Simplex Plus, which is I throw it in my car. It's my running gun. But the T2 is the one I use when we're out doing, big runs like the church investigation.
Right. So when you start an investigation, it doesn't start the day you go there.
Oh no!
A lot of work involved before you go.
Yeah.
So
no.
you want to explain that?
No.
Sue, you want to go on that one?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Sandy can jump in at any point too, because I know she does the same thing. We do background and research on it, whether to see. There's several things I look for as far as doing research. When was the building built? Was there something there prior to that building? Is there anything that happened, good, bad, or indifferent, that would draw that attention to, and why was this building put here rather than put someplace else? Is there something that was historically well known that happened there that would leave an imprint on the land or leave an imprint on the building itself? And that's kind of the wide version of what we're looking for. And then as we're doing the research, we divvy up our research with different people. We do not get anything that we find. We don't want them to come in with blinders and say, oh, okay, this happened here and so-and-so died here. This is the one we got to look for. We don't want them to know that, because a lot of times research shows a lot, but it doesn't show everything. So between our research and our investigation, that normally will give us the whole picture.
Yeah, I know for me personally, it's sort of a little bit of a mixture of both.
Yeah.
I like to at least know the very basic. I want to know when the building came into existence. I want to know because a lot of times the land is just as important in an investigation as the building itself. Land, of course, holds a lot of energy, and so you guys know this too. Sometimes the land itself can have the attachment to it and not the building. So I like to kind of get a feel for the place, but I do prefer to go in, they call it cold. I don't like to know too much about where I'm going. I know we did one investigation of a restaurant, and all I knew going in there that there were a few fires. I didn't know anything else. And so a lot of times what will happen with me personally is a few days to a week before, I'll start getting some ideas in my head. Things will just start to come to me. Names will come to me. As a matter of fact, we can talk about the one from the church because it was kind of a funny story. A few days before the investigation at the church, the name Jeremiah came to me. And we had all gathered at a restaurant before the actual investigation to have some dinner and to talk and get to know each other better. And I looked at Sue and I said, Sue, does the name Jeremiah ring a bell to you? And Sue got this smirk on her face. And she said, you know what? As a matter of fact, Jeremiah lived right across the road from the church. So things like that, I'll go in with an idea of what's going on. Dennis lives in a haunted house, Dennis Webster. And so a few weeks before we did a little investigation at his house, I pictured his stairwell. And I had never been in the house. And so I had him send me a picture, and sure enough, that was the stairwell I pictured. So things like that I go in with, but I don't like to know a lot of the history, whereas it's great that like Sue would do so much research on it, because then that validates the feelings and the experiences that I have afterwards so that I can put them together.
Mm-hmm.
So
and that's why we do what we do, at least with our team. And I know, and we've discovered this with working with Sandy's team, is we're kind of almost a mirror image sister team, so to speak, how we operate. Yeah. We'll do all this research, but we won't tell anybody about it except for like maybe Sue and whoever's assisting Sue. So she's kind of our litmus test when we hit the good stuff, because she got that smirk just like that.
Yeah, there it is.
But when we present everything to the client, we literally I can't think of an investigation we haven't done a reveal for where we don't have literally like a 2-inch 3-ring binder going worth of property research, genealogy research, the building history, the property history, you name it, back to inception. And then on top of it, our investigation report with what we did and didn't find. Right. And everything we present to the client, we double check and verify before we ever let it out of our site to the client. It's not just one person from Wikipedia going, yep, this is what we found.
Exactly.
Let's do it.
Here's a great example of working together. Sue wasn't on the investigation with me, but we were at a restaurant and we were doing an investigation for the show. And Sue said to me, ask if a Mr. and Mrs. White are there. Now, I had absolutely no idea what Sue was talking about, but I put it in my brain, and while we were there, we were doing an EVP session, and I asked if Mr. and Mrs. White were there, and I actually got an EVP after the fact of a gentleman saying, yes, ma'am. Very clear. Class A EVP. Yes, ma'am. And so, come to find out, Mr. and Mrs. White had died in one of the fires at the restaurant when it was a hotel back in the early 1900s. I believe it was 1919. So obviously Mr. and Mrs. White were there, but if Sue hadn't had that information to pass to me, I would have never known to ask specifically for them and get that information. So that was fantastic.
And I do that during an investigation as well. If I'm there while an EVP is going on and I can kind of see where it's leading, I'll say a name, or I'll ask about a situation, or I'll have the whoever's doing the actual EVP, why don't you ask about this? Yep. And I won't tell them why, just kind of an idea or a person or an area.
And we had that happen at the church. I don't know how many times that night. I mean, that church was just, it was like boom, boom, boom all night long. There was stuff going on.
Same thing with the school.
Yeah.
When I was doing my research, I had found out about a few things. Also, when I do my research, for some reason, I connect with whatever I'm researching. And sometimes I have dreams that kind of give me more information, or at least lead me to find more information. And I had a dream of a small room with a cot, lots of cots. Some were old, some were young, a lot of young people in the room. And when we did an EVP at the church, it was myself, Sarah, Brett, and I think Amy Lynn was in the room. One of the questions that was asked was this school ever used for anything else other than a school? And he was using his dowsing rods, as we spoke of earlier. And the dowsing rod said yes, and it comes off on the EVP as well. And then why? And we heard scarlet fever.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I don't think it was discussed when we first started. The Russia Union Church on the same property. There's a schoolhouse that was built 2 years later. Sue,
Yes.
later. 2 years later on the property. It's just a one-room schoolhouse. So that's what when we say the schoolhouse, that's what we're referring to. Is literally 150 feet from the church. There is a schoolhouse on the other corner of the property, and that's what we're
So what
referring
is
to.
the history of this church, Sue?
You get yourself some coffee. Have a seat.
Here we go.
So the church itself, they started building it in 1818 because it was an area that there was nobody living there, and back in I think the town was established in 1806. It was originally called Union, and then they changed it to Russia 2 years later. And then as the population was increasing, there were land grants going out, and for some reason, mostly from Connecticut, they were coming in and settling the area. The land was cheap. But anyways, all these denominations were coming in. They needed a church. And that's how the Russia Union Church was built, the reason why. And of course, with families, you get schools. And this school was built literally right next to the church. And sometimes it was used in conjunction with the church, and sometimes it was used strictly as what it was. It was a schoolhouse. The teachers, some of the teachers lived right across the street, so it wasn't a bad walk to work. But this church was multi-denominational. It had an unusual setting on the inside. The pews have been moved around a few times. But originally you had the pews in almost 3 aisles in the church, and the top was actually open, and the choir was on the second floor. So the choir would sing, and it would literally radiate up to the steeple area. Unusual setup. They had a kitchenette upstairs. They had a bathroom upstairs.
The two-seat outhouse.
Yeah, exactly. Smirk.
Yeah. But it had multiple deacons and pastors over the years, and a lot of town meetings held in that church. But it stood the test of time. It's still around. It's still being used. They use it for Christmas. They have a big Christmas festival every year.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the clip I sent you in that thumbnail that you used, Deej, was a shot from their Christmas service.
Right.
And it's actually on the National Registry of Historic Places now. The church, the schoolhouse, and 4 outer buildings that are within 200 feet or so of it. There's 2 across the street and 2 down the street. And if you go online, you can find, I think it's called, oh God, I can't remember. I don't even have it written down. But it's a historic corner. They call it the Russia Union Historic Corner.
Yeah.
But now that church was also on Old Military Road, and that road was put in to help transport the military from point A to point B. And sometimes the military would stop, and whether they were transporting troops or troops and equipment, this was during the War of 1812, they would often camp out either on church grounds or around the general area of the church grounds, because there was a tavern right across the street. So, what better place to hang out? And behind the church, we got a lot of strange readings. Several of our group members had some strange and unusual Heavy feelings back there. It may very well be because of the troops, because like I said, it was during the middle of the War of 1812. The land itself was taken from the Loyalists when the country went from being British owned to American owned. And it literally was taken out by the government. Some things haven't changed. Oops, sorry. And that's why the land was so cheap. They wanted to get people to make homes there, make living there, which they did. Some families have lived there for 5 generations.
And behind the church, when I was detecting back there were remnants of old stone walls back there too. Needless to say, knowing the history, I was really hoping for some good bucket listers, but sadly, all I could get was it was just mineralized beyond anything I could actually get past with the detector. So sadly, I was stuck getting a lot of hot rocks and noisy dirt, basically. But there was remnants of stone walls back there, which is where I was focusing my efforts on behind the church.
So when you went inside the church, how did that investigation start and go?
Yeah. So it started before we got in the church. It was active from the time we put boots on the ground the night before. It was quite an active location, and I don't really think there was any downtime. Even during setup, it was hopping.
Yeah.
Even when we were tearing down, there was still stuff going. Nothing too dark and negative. We did have a couple occurrences where a couple of our female team members were nudged, we'll say, on the stairwell. But as far as like really dark stuff, there wasn't
nothing
anything. There wasn't anything malicious or anything like that.
There was some anger. I was
yeah.
picking up on some really angry energy throughout the entire second floor.
Yeah.
We were
second floor was
and it was focused on focused on the female members of the team too.
Yes.
But going back in the history of the religions that worship there, that's not at all surprising. That you guys are, women of authority or assertive power, and you were in there kind of, in the wrong place, kind of stomping on their territory a little bit. And I think that was kind of what was going on.
It was interesting because, and I know Sue can agree with this too, because Sue felt it was moving. This one, there were many different energies in this place. I was feeling some female energies, but primarily male energy, which would make sense.
And assorted ages.
Yes, all different ages of energies. And
we were chasing it.
Yes, and we were definitely playing games.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got the male energy upstairs really heavy, like in my face. At one point, we were all in a big circle around the second floor, and I was next to Brett, and I could literally feel this in my face. Yeah. And I think at one point I actually said, I think you can hear it on the video, I said, he's right here.
Yeah.
Like he was right in my face. This was the angry energy that I kept feeling. I had come up at one point and said, Sue, can you come over here for a second? I want to make sure that you're feeling this too, because Sue is sensitive as well. And there was definitely, and Sue ended up staying in that section while we were all sort of confronting this energy. And Sue didn't feel well at one point.
It was so powerful it actually overtook Dennis at one point too.
Yes.
Who, Dennis is, kind of a rock when it comes to investigations. And that's the first time I've ever seen him kind of like almost to like a comatose state for like a good 10 minutes.
Completely zoned out.
Yeah.
We
were literally calling his name.
He wasn't responding, and then the whole group started screaming, hollering his name, and
he finally popped out.
He said, out of it.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
There was a lot of game playing going on, a lot of cat and mouse. We had set up.
Amy Lynn is saying in the chat, the energy radiated all the way down to command too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was everywhere. The interesting thing, though, that I noticed was that a lot of that heavier, more angry energy was not in the actual downstairs sanctuary.
No.
It was almost like when you walk through the doors into the actual pulpit area and the benches.
church area, the actual church.
It cleared. It just
Yep.
cleared for me. I felt nothing at all angry. There was nothing heavy in there. It was sort of like, take a deep breath, take a break.
It was in the reception area and up in the choir loft was the most of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting, because the other thing that was notable was that it would move on the outer edges of the upstairs room instead of through the middle. And that was probably because of the fact that there was no floor.
Yep.
When we did the investigation, Deej, they, at some point, I think 20 years prior, not even that, maybe 15 years. Anyways, they had enclosed that open area that I had talked about in the choir. So you could walk.
It was all floor.
It was all floor, yeah.
You could walk all the way across.
Now we would see. I'm sorry, Sue. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say they actually had some kind of a stage up there, almost like it was practice. You did your practicing up above, and then you do the actual singing down below.
Mm-hmm.
Which was interesting because there were a lot of shadows. That I kept seeing shadows across the stage area, but with nothing in the middle. It was all around the outside, which was very, very interesting.
And it looked like at one point behind the stage, before they floored it in, there was a large, I'm going to say it was probably Tiffany stained glass window.
Yes, actually, that is currently being repaired.
Yeah.
They have a person, that's all she does. She's repaired all their other windows. If any of the original windows are broken, because you know how the old windows have that weave in them, or they've got bubbles or whatever, she takes stuff from old places and she'll repair them so they're with either original windows or the same vintage.
Another interesting thing too to talk about was the fact that it wasn't just personal experiences. We were getting hits on our equipment.
Yes.
At the same time that this energy was playing cat and mouse with us. So, in other words, it would come up or let us get close enough to it to get readings and spikes in our equipment, and then back off. In the hallway, when you get to the top of the stairs, there's like a little landing. That was extremely active. We were getting spikes of 40 and 50 on my mel meter. I was getting spikes of that, and that's huge. And at one point, I was upstairs with Sarah and Jen, the three of us. We sort of did quite a few things that night together, and we were in the little kitchenette area, and we very succinctly heard heavy boot steps coming up the stairs towards us at one point. When we turned around, they stopped, but there was nobody going up the stairs at all. So, very interesting.
Wow.
Then schoolhouse too. We had some interesting things happen there. There was a room which is now a kitchen. The original beam was up high, and I'm not sure what happened in that back room, but everybody that went in there. That's the other thing. We try not to discuss when one group goes in what we found, what we felt, the results we had with other team members. And in some way it's good, because then they're not going to say, oh yeah, I felt it too. So if they do get an A.P.P. out of there, or they get sounds or whatever, they got it because they got it, not because they're just pretending.
And like Amy Lynn mentioned in the chat, she says, don't touch the beam, Dennis. And that literally every person that went in there, like, I don't know what draw their attention to that beam, but they had to touch it. And every single time it got touched, something happened.
Funny story. Amy Lynn and I, that was the only bathroom you could use was in the schoolhouse, and we had to use the bathroom. So we went down by ourselves at one point, not to investigate, but to actually use the bathroom. And when she was in the bathroom, I went into the kitchen, and instinctively, because I can get a lot of readings and feelings from touching things, and I instinctively reached up to touch the beam, not even realizing what was going on, and felt very dizzy. So I pulled my hand back, didn't mention it to Amy Lynn, didn't really say anything. I think I may have, in passing, just said, oh, I felt kind of dizzy. Didn't think anything of it. Like 20 minutes later, she's down there and has something happen to her involving the beam. So that was really crazy. That schoolhouse was a lot more active than I think anybody thought.
Yeah.
We could easily do another weekend there
Just with the
without batting an eye,
schoolhouse.
with just the schoolhouse alone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I would love to go back and do a 2-night investigation.
Yeah.
definitely. That's definitely going to be back on the bucket list again. There's no way that's a done deal at this point
And
for any of our teams.
maybe we can get into some of the other houses that are across the street that
Yes.
share the same history with, the people in the houses across the street were either deacons or teachers or bookkeepers. They were all affiliated with the church in some
Yep.
form or fashion.
It's a very tight knit community.
Yeah.
Well, that you were tight with your community because everybody helped one another. It's not like today you have neighbors, you have no idea who they are.
Right.
Neighbors were 10, 15 miles away. It didn't matter. They were still tight. Everybody helped everybody.
Right.
Well, and this was a multi-denominational church too.
Yes,
How
it is.
often do we see that nowadays?
Almost never.
Yeah.
Very rarely.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
right.
the church I used to go to in my hometown is a dual denomination, but it's Presbyterian and Methodist, which is, you might as well just call it
Pretty
the same
close.
thing. It's
Yeah.
very, very close with how they worship. But the denominations that were in that church prior to were, I mean, there's some pretty drastic ends of the spectrum with the denominations that were in that church and commingling together in that church at the same time.
I think that has a lot to do with the way the pews were structured as well.
Yes.
Because each denomination would kind of tweak the pews as far as, we're going to do it this way. And, I'm not sure how they did Sunday worship. It must have been interesting. It must have been a revolving door. Or maybe they had some Saturday worships and Sunday worships or something. I'm not sure how they worked it. But yeah, they definitely, it was obviously a well-used church, well-loved church. There is, both positive and negative there. And like Sandy was saying, when you walked in to the actual church itself, there was I wouldn't say calm, but it's almost like when there's a gathering of a big family getting together.
Yes.
And you can almost hear the chatter before church and everybody's mingling. Hey, how you doing? How's Lucy doing? All that jazz. That's kind of the feeling that I got when I walked in. On the other side, where you enter, it was kind of both sides of the fence, but upstairs was
It's very tense. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really strange how it was sectioned off. It's sort of like, literally sectioned off. And Sue, you're right. I sort of got that. Oh, it's like a Sunday worship day as I walked in. You know what I mean? Like the almost welcoming in a way. And I just, after what we had gone through, we sort of headed down there at the end of the night and did a couple things down in the church part, the sanctuary part. And after what we had just dealt with upstairs for several hours, it was just a breath of fresh air. I think Damon and I were sitting on the raised area at one point, and we were doing some spirit box sessions, and I looked over at Damon, and he just looked like, all right, I'm kind of relaxed now.
Yeah.
I'm in that state where, and it was that kind of relief. It was a good feeling in there. It really
for
was.
me as an empath, the whole night was just, it was, with how I received things, it was like there was structure, but it was also utter chaos. Like you were talking about going in the reception area, there was that deeper feeling or heavier feeling in there. You walk in the sanctuary, and like you were saying, Sue, you hit the nail right on the head. It was just conversation and chatter of, just before service got started. And that's literally, I was going, deaf in my head because there was so many different voices talking and just that low rumbling chatter going on. But upstairs, it was a completely different feeling of, okay, choir director's here. This means business. Shut up and do what you're supposed to do. Don't screw up. This is we're ready to go now. And that was kind of there was like you were saying, Sandy, the three different stages or the three different sections of energy and how it felt in the church. And the schoolhouse was completely just, it was a whole entirely different realm from the other three.
You could actually feel the child energy. in the
running
store.
back and forth. There was a
Yes,
lot of
towards the
lot
back
of fooling around.
and
Yep.
around the outside of the back.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, I was getting it more on the, for me personally, more on the outside. All around the school was very frenetic, sort of childlike,
Yep.
you know, jumping around and running around type of that kind of jumpiness. That's what I was getting. So, exactly. And it's funny because this is the first time we've all really gotten together to discuss this little stuff. And so it's really funny to hear what you guys, and that we all kind of have the same ideas about things. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And normally we do have, Deej, we usually have debriefs on investigations by now, but with the way our schedules have been so crazy, this is literally, this kind of happenstance. It was the first time at least the three of us had gotten together, to try and to discuss it, which is nice because you guys are literally getting the same fresh information that we are in real time.
Exactly.
As a debrief, this is kind of how we kick around our investigations afterwards with a debrief. Is literally just like this.
Yeah. Well, what you told us so far, this is why it's my opinion because of how they conduct themselves.
Yep.
They show respect to the property owner, respect to the property, and respect to the spirit realm.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So it's for them, it is not about monetary gain.
No.
It is about
No. And actually the couple finds we did get when we were out detecting, those went right into the hands of one of the board of directors. That stuff's going into, I believe it was going to the Historical Society, into their displays.
They have, there's a board of directors, and that's all they do. They've got a couple that do research. They've got a couple that put stuff together for the Historical Society.
Mm-hmm.
They have gatherings a couple of times a year with new information or old information, but they're constantly working on the church and constantly upgrading it. Well, I use the term loosely, upgrading. They're keeping the church as it is, with the painting it when it needs to be painted, repair it when it needs to be repaired. But when it does get repaired, and this is what I absolutely love, they're keeping the look and the feel of the church of what it always was from
original.
The day it was built. Yes.
Right.
So I see over in the comments, Straight Up Metal Detecting had a question. Does anyone have any photos of spirits of the church? It's a good possibility. We're still actually going through the photos. We took probably a good 500 rounds of photos that night, and we're still going through. And what we do when we have photo evidence, like we'll have 3 or 4 different people look at it, and then we'll all get together and kind of decide, is this legit or is it not? And I know Sandy's team does the same thing.
Yep.
Granted, they don't have that many people.
Yeah, there's just a few of us.
We're a team of 15.
Yeah.
Sandy has a team of 3, but our team of 15, we only have like 5 people that go in the field. The rest of them do research and review, and some of them actually just do the events, like our haunted house fundraiser that we do every year. But to answer your question, Straight Up Metal Detecting, there probably is pictures of spirits at the church. I don't have any right here on hand because we're still literally going through them, and I know we're still debating on whether or not they're, what's legit and what's just, say, flash burst or, a bug on the lens or anything like that.
If we can't make a unanimous decision that this is what it is, it's either A, B, or C,
it goes in the file.
It gets tossed.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Team Clam
Bake.
Yep. Is expensive to hire a paranormal team to investigate your home business. So in regards to that, we don't charge. And I know Sandy's team doesn't charge.
No.
It's not like you were just saying, Deej. It's not about the monetary value. If there is a team that's charging, I would be very cautious with them in regards to what they do.
Absolutely.
I was part of a team that used to charge, and I left that team very abruptly because it was just it wasn't kosher. There was a lot of funny business going on, and there should never be a time where you're saying, how much do I owe you for an investigation? We do it for the pure and simple fact of we want to get to the bottom of it. We want to be able to get the whole story on what's going on and be able to tell the story of those who have passed on. If we can. It's not about
want to educate.
Yeah, I was
Exactly.
going to say, and to educate who's there, because
Exactly.
a lot of times when we get called, they don't know what's going on, and it's up to us to either debunk. Don't worry about it. Those windows are drafty. That's why that door keeps opening and closing. Fix that draft. That should go away. Or to say, okay, there is no draft. There is something going on. It most of the time it's nothing bad. They just want to be acknowledged.
Or validation. Yeah.
Be nice to them. They'll be nice to you, type thing. Acknowledge them once in a while. And 9 chances out of 10, that's what we're dealing with.
And when we go to talk to a client, and Sue will back this up, we'll literally start off the entire interview process with, "This is a crapshoot. We can't guarantee you we're going to find anything. We can't guarantee you we're not going to find anything. It's not like we can just flip the switch and your long lost distant uncle, second cousin, first roommate is going to be right there waiting for us.
Right.
Say,
That would
hey,
be
how's
cool
it going?
if you could do that.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be great, but that's not going to happen.
However,
And-
there's no guarantees.
And also, Deej, to speak to your point about respect, I think it ties into what we're talking about now. I personally, speaking for myself, I always go into everything with the utmost respect.
Yes.
When I go to a cemetery, I literally, my husband's so used to this now, I literally speak to them and say, I am here with total respect. I am not here to cause any harm. I am not here to do anything that might make you unhappy. And so when I go to an investigation, everything is done with the utmost respect, not only to any energy that may be there, any spirits that may be there, but to the property itself, to the owner of the property. Everybody is treated with respect. And for me, it's a very personal thing, because the fact that I take on emotions and I take on feelings and energies and thoughts becomes, it connects me with the energy that's on a property. And so for me, it's a very personal thing. I want to treat them with respect and help them in any way that I can. And Sue's right, a lot of times, and Damon, a lot of times, all they want is to be acknowledged. I had that issue with Mr. and Mrs. White. They were in the restaurant. They would come in the next day and they would see menus on the floor and they would see silverware moved around. And I said, this couple just wants you to say hello to them every day when you go in.
They want acknowledgement.
How are you? Yes, they want acknowledgement. They were a young couple. They were 27 and 28 years old. And she wasn't even supposed to be there. She came to visit her husband on the last day that he was staying there, and they were going to go home together, and the fire broke out. Just want acknowledgement. That's all.
Yeah.
And
So,
like I said, a lot of times, and I do that before I walk into a house. Sometimes my husband laughs at me. I'll knock on the door, and knowing there's nobody in the building, no physical being, and I'll come in and I'll say, hello, it's just me. If it's someplace I go regularly. I do it in my own house. Hey, guys, it's just me. And, my husband laughs, but he understands.
Yeah.
Because, again, that's that respect.
yes.
You give them, you get what you give.
Right.
That's
Totally.
Exactly. I do the same thing when I go return to my cellar hole permission.
And
just
that's what
explain
Sue and I
to
was
them what
talking
I'm
with you about
doing,
the last time was
what
that.
the metal detector is, what I'm trying to find, what the trail camera is, all that. So, straight up metal detecting has another a follow-up question. With photos, have you ever used a negative filter on the pictures to maybe get a better view of what might be there?
So for our team, I can't speak for Sandy's team, but for our team, we don't alter the photos at all. If it's not there with the raw footage, we're not using it. I'm not going to put a filter on it or reverse the image or anything like that in order to find something, because then the property owner or the client's going to go, okay, well, if you did this for this, what's to say this orb isn't really an orb, it's something photoshopped.
Right.
So no, we don't alter the photo at all. We leave it raw footage. We literally will hand the client either a thumb drive or a CD-ROM with every single photo that's legit, that has legit evidence on it, to them at the end of the investigation and the reveal. We don't alter anything for that reason, because again, I've seen this with teams that charge for their services. There's been a lot of people that have complained about altered footage or altered audio evidence and stuff like that, and that's not how we roll. That's not what we're about. That's why a lot of teams go under. That's why paranormal investigation in general sometimes gets a bad name. It's for people like that.
Yes. And I know for us, we don't touch anything, audio especially. Now, for a living, I do audio editing for podcasts, so I know how to enhance, how to change things, how to move things. At the very most, I might clean up an audio piece a little bit to kind of give it more oomph, so we can understand a little bit better what's being said. But in no way, shape, or form does anything ever get changed around or distorted or moved. It's just, to me, that's just taking something that is very important and kind of playing with it to the point where it just doesn't matter anymore.
And we did the same thing with our audio. Is we use is a program called Audacity, which all it does is amplify or enhance the sound, so we can hear, that background white noise if there might be something there. But beyond anything else, we don't touch it. Other than amplifying the audio, just so we can hear what's going on in the background, which is what you find with these ghost hunter shows is they'll amplify it, but then it's left to question, is it amplified or is it more than just amplified?
And not everything is going to be a Class A EVP, and by that I mean completely clear, loud enough to hear it normally. Sometimes you get a whisper. Sometimes I had an investigation where we were getting a woman crying. Not everything is going to be that clear. So, yes, you are going to want to boost it. Right. You want to boost it. You want to boost it.
Right, so you can hear it.
But no, we don't want to distort anything or change anything.
Just to follow
Straight Up Metal Detecting had a question. Have you ever heard of spirit boxes? If so, do you think they really work?
Go first.
Sandy can kind of attest to that. I know she literally had an entire podcast about the ghost box sessions. As far as me,
it's a tool.
Six in one, half dozen in the other.
Right. To me, it's very hit or miss. Hit or miss. I have an SB11, and we've tried a new approach to it. There is a show called Kindred Spirits on TV, and we've tried this new approach to it. And what we do is
robbed it from our team.
Well, Kindred Spirits. Yeah, we got it from Kindred Spirits.
We robbed it from Kindred Spirits.
The chain. No, but it's actually great because the spirit box can be very loud and very distracting. And so by putting the headphones on and just having one person hearing things come through makes it a lot easier to understand when words do actually come through. What's really important about that is that the frequencies, it's scanning the frequencies so quickly that to get an entire sentence or even a couple of words together is a very unusual thing. So those are the types of things that we listen for, or actual intelligent responses to a question that we ask. Yeah. So when we get that kind of situation with a spirit box, we pay a little bit more attention to it than we would just random things being thrown at us, car, how old are you? Banana, that kind of thing. It's not, so it's very hit or miss. I was kind of against it for quite a while until I started to really get more into it. Yes. And exactly. And so now I'm starting to understand it a little bit better. And I think it is very hit or miss, but I think it is a good tool, like Sue said, that you can use.
And they do have things called portals that you can plug your spirit box into.
Right. And
it kind of cleans out that background noise and only really amplifies and projects the actual, couple words. Those until I, like Sandy, until I actually see the technology and read into it more, I'm skeptic on that.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I was adamant against spirit boxes when we first did it. When we did our first investigation, the team that was working with us at the time, they had 2 spirit boxes going. And it was so loud and obnoxious. Like, no, we're never putting a spirit box in our inventory whatsoever.
Right.
Never.
Right. We just don't use it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, Sue and I both watched Kindred Spirits, that same episode, and we called each other literally the next day going, hey, did you see Kindred Spirits and how they use the spirit box? And we're like, yes.
Yes.
So we went that route. And actually, another investigation we did in January, we had some really good results with the spirit box up into a point where it was calling my name.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that would creep me out.
I had no clue what was going on because I was working another spirit box session in another side of the building. But literally, because I had my noise canceling headphones on, listening to the spirit box I was listening to, and apparently they were having a full blown conversation about me with whatever entity was on the other side of the building that wasn't really a fan of the fact that my work truck might hit the building a month beforehand. So. So yeah, it got kind of interesting real quick.
We also used it at the Hotel Saranac.
Yeah,
the same way.
And it was calling your name because I was the one listening to the EVPs, and I'm like, Sue, and she's like, what? I'm like, no, it's saying your name.
Do you remember me? Because I worked there for 8 years, and when we had done the investigation initially, I had heard my name called. This was the second investigation we did. And I said, well, it's been a long time since I've been here. I wonder if they still know who I am. So that was part of the question that we asked. He was outside in the hall. We were in the room with the door closed. And finally, he opens up the door and he goes, what did you ask? I just asked if they remembered me. Yeah, Susan.
They remember you a lot.
I love it. That's wild. That reminds me of a cute little story. We were doing an investigation, and I truly believe that the spirits know when someone is a little bit more open and more sensitive. I think they're attracted more to those types of people. I know I felt that way personally. And so I have a great EVP. Someone had asked me where we should start the investigation, and I said, in that room over there. And very, very clearly, right afterwards, you can hear someone, a male, say, she's coming. So they were waiting. They were waiting because, yeah, she's coming. So, it happens. It happens when you have intelligent energies. They know who you are and they look for you.
We've had some pretty, like you were saying, the Class A EVPs. We had an intelligent response. When we were talking about Sue, you were talking about the Hotel Saranac. The first time we investigated it, we had a really good couple EVPs on that one where it was literally there was one full sentence, and there was another one that was an intelligent response to something we had said in a stairwell that was like, okay, there's no way that could have just been the wind or whatever. So, but yeah, I wanted to touch back.
Building, so there's no drafts or anything like that.
Those things get me charged up. Like they get me so excited when you have it, and you can put a personal experience with an EVP or a photo or a video. Yes, it's just
a lot of our investigations are 75 or 85% personal experiences, and then the rest of it is the actual evidence, the hard evidence that we can say, okay, there was this. But
we have done investigations though where we had no physical evidence.
It was just a bust.
And you feel bad because you're going to the client and they want to know this stuff. They want to believe that there's stuff going on in their house, and we didn't get anything. It might be for whatever reason we didn't get anything.
Yeah, it could just be the time of day, the time of year, the person that was hearing the stuff or experiencing the stuff wasn't with us. And we don't normally bring the client in with us for investigations unless we know that they're the trigger for what's going on in the first place.
Right.
Just for liability purposes amongst everything else. But, so unless we know that, okay, this is attached to the client, so we need to bring the client in and use them as bait, so to speak, to make it happen. We don't. We have done that once or twice, but it's not a common practice.
Mm-hmm.
Straight Up Detecting asked a question or replied back to when we talked about charging. They said something about being referred to a demonologist or a medium. When we do our final report for our investigations, yes, we have referred people to mediums or demonologists or people who cleanse homes, depending on what the investigation is. And I know Sandy has had experiences with that too. But we don't, like, when we do our investigations, we're not, I mean, yeah, we're kind of a one-stop shop, but we're not to the point where we'll literally go, okay, we investigated it, now we've exorcised the demons.
Yeah.
We don't clean the house.
Yeah.
That's not our job.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother aspect. Which
Granted, we have a young clergy and an old clergy, but we don't do exorcisms in the house.
I remember hearing a story. I believe it may have been Dennis's old group, and I heard the story. They were saying that they had gone to a place to investigate, and there were a lot of energies, and they took a medium with them, and the medium kept crossing people over. And yes, and the people on the property didn't necessarily want their spirits to be helped to cross over at that point. You know, there was still an investigation in place, and they were trying to figure things out. I personally would not go into an investigation and decide that it was for me to cross somebody over unless I speak to the owner or the manager of the building itself. You know, to me, those are separate things unless they really truly want us to be a one-stop shop. And
we have a member in our team that we commonly refer to as he's the fixer, or we also refer to him as our shaman, so to speak. We try not to bring him into a building unless we absolutely need to, because the minute he steps foot in said building, whether he's intending to do it or not, literally we've had an investigation go from super active to the minute he crosses the threshold to boom, done, everything's cold, nothing there. You know, so we don't we don't let him in, first of all, because he breaks our investigations. But you know,
he scares the spirits away.
We bench him a lot. But no,
we bench him a lot.
He investigates center bench a lot.
God knows we have had to bring him in sometimes.
We have had to bring him in, but it's not to cleanse the house for the client; it's to protect us. More than anything, we utilized him at Hotel Saranac because there was a lot of negativity in Hotel Saranac. Another investigation we were on, we really could have used him at that investigation. Right. But it's not. He's not one. You know, he's our like fourth string special teams kind of guy. He's not the one that goes in first glance, because then we don't get anything the rest of the night.
And also, you run into a situation where sometimes you can't. Somebody doesn't want to go. You know, a lot of times I think you see people who are there because they're confused or they don't know what they can do, that they can go home. They don't understand. Those are the people that are, I think, a little bit easier to cross over. I do think people can come and go, but I think the confused people are the worst. I don't think this energy, I will be honest with you, I don't feel like this energy at the church, this angry energy, wants to go anywhere.
Oh, no, he's not.
At all.
He feels like he's trying to protect everything, and he's still in charge.
He feels
like
good
he's a choir director or the pastor or something. He is a prominent figure in that church, and he is not going anywhere no matter what.
He doesn't want to. No.
Yeah, but what about the female spirits that might be there? How do they feel about that? Is this
you should mention that
thing or what?
So yeah, we did have a couple interactions before that particular entity made its presence known, where I would say that they're stuck and they're scared, but they're not wanting to pass on, so to speak. I know Sandy had that same experience up there when we had the entire group up there, and Brett was going through some prayers and some liturgy. The experience that Sue had and Sandy had, and I think Sarah had as well, was that the female entities were kind of using Sarah, Sue, and Sandy as kind of their
Buffer.
carbon-based shield,
Yeah.
so to speak, from this male entity that was in the room.
Yeah.
And we literally, me and another investigator were chasing this stronger energy all around the choir loft. Never through the center, but all around that horseshoe, back and forth. And you could tell when they were getting close to Sue or Sandy or Sarah, because we had them spaced out, and it was literally you could literally see which way they were going. They were trying, this male entity was kind of chasing the weaker energies around, so to speak.
When he came over to my corner where I was sitting, I would get nauseously ill. And when Damon and our other investigator, Brett, started talking to him and saying, you can't be talking to them like that. You can't be treating these ladies like that. And that's what happens to me.
Yeah.
I get sick. I get nauseous.
Mm-hmm.
And they were even seeing us as a threat to a point. Brett's an ordained clergyman, and I'm an ordained Presbyterian elder, and us coming in there, kind of asserting ourselves, dude was not having that.
Even the men. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they were coming at us at one point.
He's very used to being in charge. He's very used to being the male. And so, and so to be challenged by the men sort of, I think, maybe took him by surprise. I could definitely feel him. Like, I almost felt like he couldn't really, it was weird. It was almost like he was right here in my face. I could feel him, but he couldn't touch me. I know Jen was getting touched a lot that night. She was getting a lot of things happening to her. He just couldn't touch me. And I don't know.
Sarah got pushed.
Pushed down the stairs.
Yep.
The same stairs where we heard the boot steps coming up earlier. Yeah. So he was an angry spirit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of the Lord of the church, so to speak.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
Right.
No intention of going anywhere. He's there.
Yep.
Right. Diggin Defines has a question. He said, they say, I have to attend a funeral tomorrow. My mother-in-law passed away. Can you share any words of wisdom as to how I might listen or what to look for? Do you mean a spirit or?
So here's my thing with that, and please don't take this the wrong way. This is where me and Sue kind of agree a little bit. This is why we don't do personal residences, so to speak. Family members want to believe that their significant other, their loved one, or their kin is still with them, and they are. But you're not always going to see them right off the bat. So if that's what you're inquiring about, is if you're hoping to catch another glimpse of them or get a sign from them at the funeral. I don't know where I personally, and I can't speak for Sue or Sandy on this, but personally for me, there's not really much advice I can give you on that. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Right. And they're gonna present themselves in whatever way you're familiar with. That's familiar to you.
Right. And I can say this. I can say that they are always with you. Mm-hmm. They will always come and go. Mm-hmm. That my grandparents are always with me. Yep. They basically raised me. They're always with me. Animals can be with you. My dog, Jack, who passed away a little over a year ago, I was getting a Reiki session done, and one of the mediums said to me, there's a little black energy running around the table like it's protecting you. Did you lose a pet? And I said, oh my goodness, it was about 4 months before that. And she described my dog to a T. So I know that they're with you. I know they're always around you. You have to open yourself up to it. Don't demand it. Don't expect it.
Right. That's
just
where I was going to go.
Exactly. Yeah. Just
don't
be
willing.
Don't
go walking into the funeral with a K2 meter. It's
no.
not going to work.
No.
It's not going to happen.
They might frown on that.
But when the time is right and you're open to it and you're accepting of it and you're ready, they will come to you in some way. It may not be what you're expecting. You may not see your grandmother or your mother-in-law in the corner, but it may be a perfumey smell. It may be something that reminds you of them out of the blue. It may be one of their favorite songs that comes on the radio just when you're speaking about them. It could be anything like that, but just keep yourself open to the idea that these things can happen because that's how they do it. That's how they come to you.
And when it happens, just take a few moments to acknowledge that loved one that has passed and say thank you for, coming down and saying hi. And, I still remember you. And what I like to do when it happens to me, I'll share a memory and say, hey, do you remember when we did this? Or do you remember when you did that? Yeah. And then that's it. You made your point. You acknowledge them. You remember them. They obviously remember you. And then you go about your day.
There's a saying. Outdoorsy Girl said that she swears that her dad put the shower on cold as she was getting ready for his funeral. It would be just like him. And there's a saying in sort of the paranormal world that if you're a really funny, upbeat person in life, that's how you'll be in the afterlife. If you're a jerk in life, you'll probably be a jerk in the afterlife. So if that's something that you think your dad probably would do, it more than likely was your dad. Mm-hmm. It really was.
Yeah. And sometimes, don't be surprised if it only happens once and never happens again. Right. It may be that sign of closure that either you're looking for or they're looking for.
Yep.
Kind of going back to one of the investigations we had way back in where we started the team up. It was the old railroad station, and we had a situation where we had a lot of activity. We couldn't figure out where it was originating from. We started taking pictures up towards the ceiling where there used to be an open air cupola, because the station was built for the purposes of bringing in the tuberculosis patients and transporting them out and everything. So there was an open air cupola. Every single picture, you could not find a picture that didn't have at least 10, 15 orbs in it up by that cupola.
Wow.
They're not getting the closure because they can't get out. The cupola is closed off. And, that's kind of a theory too, is, they know where to go, but where they're going is closed off. So they're missing that closure.
And actually, you mentioned the change because they closed the cupola up now. Yep. At the church, the entrances that are there now, they're on the left and the right, weren't always there. They've been moved. That whole wall has been replanned out. There was another set of doors that are no longer there.
With the center aisle. That's not there anymore.
Where the center aisle was.
Yeah. So, where you have that old adage of, okay, the ghost is going through a wall, that may not have been a wall.
Right.
It may have been a doorway.
It may have been a doorway with the original structure of the original building. Yeah. So, going back to the whole, to the discussion about the funeral, just go in with an open mind. Don't go in expecting something to happen because you might be left with some heartbreak.
Normally, in my experience, and I am kind of sensitive, but not all the time. Yeah. I would know things before they would happen when I was a child. Mm-hmm. I knew that the phone call my mother got from the state police when my grandmother passed away, I knew something had happened to Grandma before I picked up the phone. Yeah. Can't explain it. Or I would be driving home from work and all of a sudden I decided I need to go a different way home and there'd be a horrible wreck, my normal route home. Weird things like that. And the fact that I have seen 2 ghosts or 2 spirits in my lifetime. But the 2 people I want to see the most, I have not seen.
It's the same with me. My father passed away almost 4 years ago now. I'm an empath. I can walk into a cemetery and I get literally my head will get filled with voices and drowned out. You'd think I'd be able to hear anything when I walked into that funeral home with my father.
Right.
Not a damn thing.
No,
it's true.
No,
it's very
true. It's true. You're too close to it.
Yeah.
And with me,
when you're on the train, when you go to the cemetery, you're not
my
close
father
to
is in a box on the buffet in my dining room. Okay. But this is how he lets me know what I believe, how he lets me know that he's watching over me. Mm-hmm. I'll be treasure hunting and I will find something. For instance, the 1880 Victorian dump and I dug that wine bottle. It had the name of the company on the bottom of the bottle. It wasn't a valuable bottle or anything, but it was the wine company that sponsored the radio show, The Lone Ranger. And my dad would told me he would run home from school to be able to listen to The Lone Ranger.
There you go.
Yep. And that's all. It could be just a happenstance of a sign. You know, and that's what it's going to be. It's not going to be, hey, I'm here. I'm going to flick the lights on 3 times to let you know I'm here kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
it's not always like that.
It's not always TV show sort of, you know,
right.
Knock on the wall twice if it's you. It's not, that's not going to happen. It's like Sandy was saying, you might get that whiff of perfume. You know, it was only a year or so ago, maybe 2, I got this strong whiff of Old Spice, and my dad always wore Old Spice aftershave. And there was nowhere around that particular fragrance would be coming from ever. Because it was in the middle of the woods. And bam, there it was.
Yeah.
And I went,
you want to hear something eerie?
Yep, he's here.
Yep.
Last Sunday, I went for a collaboration hunt with Oakland Digger. Okay. And I went to his house and we walked to the permission, but he lives in an old Craftsman kit house. Okay. Beautifully. He's restoring it himself, all that. He's doing a great job. I go to use the restroom and I go to wash my hands and I smell this fragrance. And it's the same fragrance soap or something. Like Grandma had this bar soap. It just smelled so good. Yep. And I walked out of the restroom with my eyes about this big. And he goes, what? I said, what kind of soap is that? I want to get some of that. My mom got me that. Why? I said, I just had a flashback to being at my grandma's house. Her house was a Craftsman kid house. You know, it was like, doo-doo.
Yep.
So you have to be
open.
Yeah.
And Team Clambake, I see this kind of mirrored Predator like where you wonder if you just saw something or imagined it. That's it. You know, it's, you know, you had that sense of deja vu or like, wait a second, what was that? That's, you know, it's your guards drop just for that half a second, that split second to be able to see, or for whatever it is to present themselves.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times growing up, I just chalked my stuff up to, I have a great imagination.
Yeah.
You know, I was not open to the idea. It never even dawned on me that I could do these things or have these things happen in my life. And so I just had a great imagination, an overactive imagination, or, you know, and my mom used to always say, oh, you're so emotional, you're just trying to get attention, when I was a kid. But little did I know, but it's the same kind of idea. Once I opened myself up to the idea that it's possible, that it can happen, everything changed. So as long as you live your life with that open thoughtfulness that, yes, it always is possible, they will come to you. It'll be easier for them to come to you. Just like my story of she's coming, they know when they're able to get close to you. They really do.
And it's funny we kind of segued into this because I was actually talking to Ray from Michigan Metal Detectives earlier tonight about some stuff, and he had mentioned something about some stuff getting moved in a nursery somewhere, and he was asking, is that kind of common occurrence? And actually, it is, because at that age, they're not trained or brainwashed per se to not believe or to block out. You know, they're more open and more susceptible to what's going on. So there is a school of thought that energy, spirits, whatever you want to call it, will radiate more to infants, toddlers, the young, and pets, and make their presence known there more than anything else. In fact, we had a potential member reach out to us when we did our last event at a festival a couple weekends ago, and showed us, you know, a video of their baby monitor, and literally the kid's holding a pacifier, and you literally see the pacifier go out of the kid's hand, go up, and then back into the crib again.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
Oh
we were like,
That was cool. That was freaking cool.
that was amazingly cool. But that's the thing is, kids that age aren't trained to not believe or trained to ignore or block it out. So
they're completely open.
They're completely open.
That
So
reminds me of something I
gravitate to
totally
them.
forgot about. When I was a kid, I would take turns spending time with my great aunt and uncle and my grandparents. And I'd even go down and stay with a great aunt and uncle in Illinois. And at my great aunt Eva and Uncle Tony's house, which was here in Michigan, they had like a guest house. He was a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And I would play with the black lab next door. Well, the next summer I came and I never saw the black lab. I never asked. And when I'd go to bed at night, the black lab would come to my window. It was an older home. The windows were close to the ground and the bed was right next to the window. And I put my hand up to the window because I knew it was him. And I could feel pressure on the other side of the window.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning I got up, I was like wanting to hurry up and eat my breakfast because I wanted to go out and see Sam. And Eva says, well, Sam passed away last year, honey. No, he came to my window last night. You must have been dreaming, honey.
Yep.
I'm going to step out for just a second.
Sure.
Okay. So
yeah, like
all of my subscribers know that I have a dog I love dearly. And she's getting up there. And I'm just praying she'll come to visit me. Because it's not going to be the same without her.
I know.
And she probably will, Deej. That's for sure. If you're open to it, she'll be back.
My little Jack is my protector. I even catch him out of the corner of my eye in my room here in my studio. From time to time, he's always there. He's always with me. So, as long as you're open to it, Deej, your doggy will be there.
Yep,
Yeah.
For sure.
Without a doubt.
For sure.
I think we had a question from Outdoorsy Girl about protection on an investigation. I love that question.
I saw that. Trying to find it here.
Yeah.
Let me
It's
see
a
if
great
I can
question.
find it.
Yeah. Have you ever brought a religious article like a crucifix? Yes.
Yeah.
Funny you should mention that.
Have you felt the
Ever
need
since
You guys
Bill
wanna-
gave me mine, I haven't taken it off.
You guys want to take turns running through what you do?
For me personally, I do my own prayer to myself before I start an investigation. I always have I like to call it my talismans with me. There's one I wear 24/7 that's always on me. And then there's two that I wear only for investigations because they're blessed and they've got some protection spells blessed to them. And I also carry with me black tourmaline that it kind of absorbs the negative energy and takes it away from the body, so to speak. I keep one in each of my pockets. And that's what I usually do for protection. Sue has a different school of thought on how she protects herself, and I know Sandy has her own way of protecting herself as a team. And I know Dennis's team does the same thing. We have an opening prayer and a closing prayer before we start and when we're done. And we make sure that, whoever's here, you stay there. Don't follow us home. We don't want you.
Right.
We don't need your drama. We don't need your love at home.
Our team does an opening and closing prayer to St. Michael, the Archangel.
Yep.
To defend us throughout the night. We do invite the good spirits to come to us throughout the investigation. And then, as Damon said at the end, we tell them that, nope, no way, no how, you're not following us. It ain't going to happen.
Yep.
And so that's one protection we do. Now, I personally, like Damon, carry my black tourmaline. I have a black tourmaline necklace. I also have black tourmaline crystals that I'll carry in my pockets. I also bring selenite with me, which is another good negative energy cleansing crystal. so that comes with me. I also have like Sue, my husband kind of smirks when he sees it, but he understands completely. I have a selenite square in my studio with black tourmaline on the outside. And maybe once a week, I'll stand in it for a while, and it'll draw out any negative energy, anything like that. I always do that before an investigation. I'm very mindful as I go in to an investigation of saying my own personal prayers as I go in. And I was born and raised Catholic. I'm not so much the Catholic, churchy Catholic at this point. I consider myself much more spiritual. And so I still hold to I still cross myself. It's almost involuntary at this point. I still cross myself. Yep. I was in a situation just a couple weeks ago that made me a little nervous, and I was saying the Lord's Prayer and the Hail Mary and crossing myself. But for the most part, I stay very spiritual. And just those kinds of things for me, keeping a good outlook, not a negative outlook, trying not to be afraid. They feed on fear. So if you are afraid, they'll pick up on that. And if you get an angry energy, like in the church, they're much more difficult to invade your personal space if they know you're not know you're not afraid of them.
You need to be assertive, and you need to basically stand up for yourself. You can't be scared and run. That's not the way to do it. I saw somebody in chat saying something about bring sage and holy water with you. No. That for us, no. That's a very, 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 very last ditch effort, and it wouldn't be done on site or in the property. It would be done in the parking lot before we leave. If somebody is really, we think something's attached to an individual person,
right?
We will smudge or sage them. We're not going to be dousing them with holy water, saying the power of Christ compels you. Yeah. But we're going to be, doing, a saging ceremony to try and cleanse them. We don't ever, ever, ever bring that into an investigation because you're done before you even get started.
Agreed.
You're creating an atmosphere. It's like, when you go into...
You're almost being hostile when you bring that stuff in.
When you go into any group situation, dealing with the living or with the dead, if you come in loaded for bear and ready for that fight, you're going to get it.
Yep.
But if you come in with respect, say, I have my boundaries, you have yours, let's communicate, but.
Yep.
Right.
And it's the same thing for all of us on the team.
Right. Now that's not to say that you can't go into an investigation and maybe, I don't know how strong a word I want to use, maybe challenge them a little bit.
I was going to say, you can egg them.
You know what I mean? You can egg them on.
There may have been some challenge going on in the church.
There may or may not have been some challenging occurring at the church.
We can either confirm or deny some elevated voices in the choir loft.
But we started out as nice people.
Yeah.
They pushed us to that level. We said, look what you made us do.
Yeah, exactly. It's your fault. Sue and I were in an investigation, the investigation we did together before this one, where we did a little bit of challenging, and this male spirit was quite unhappy with us at the time and literally threw a chair onto the floor. We didn't, unfortunately, this is me talking. I'm not afraid of much. Damon knows this. He makes fun of me all the time, along with my best friend, Todd. I'm not afraid of too much. And so if there's the coffin on the ground, I'm the one who's going to say, oh, let me open the lid to see what's going on under there.
I don't know anybody like that.
Walk through it.
Or walk into black mist. But I will say I was kind of disappointed we didn't get to see the chair get thrown, but we did definitely hear it, and we did get it on audio, the chair being thrown down. He wasn't very happy with us.
Which is funny because I'm always worried about liability. I own my own business, so I'm always looking for, especially when you're doing investigations in a dark room in a dark place and all you have is a little bitty light just to kind of guide your way. We came around the corner and I saw this chair, and it was one of those legs came out this way, and all I could see was I the videographer is a really tall guy, and I said he's going to go down and he's going to go with that video. So
that $10,000 camera is going to go sailing.
Yep.
Yes. So I shoved it underneath the table, made sure it was nice and solid, made sure the legs were close to the table legs so nobody would trip on them.
And you can literally hear it in the audio. Sue mumbling to herself and pushing the chair into the table. So we even have that on there. Sue pushed it into the table.
Wow.
You know? So, and then we're all sitting in the room just outside of it. And Sandy and I and Michelle, one of the other investigators, the gentleman we were talking to is a bit of a, how do I put this nicely, male chauvinist?
Just a little.
Just a little. And he was known for it. I mean, you do all the research that I found on him. He was known for it. He would belittle women. He would talk down to them. Men were here. Women were, subpar people and didn't have much of a brain. They had to teach them everything. And the three of us are fairly independent. So,
no.
yes.
Just a little bit. Just a tad bit.
We sort of kind of poked the bear.
This male spirit had his hands full. He didn't know what he got himself into.
He wasn't happy.
He brought a knife to a gunfight on that one.
So all night it was just a little, poke here and poke there, and yeah. And that was the end result.
He wasn't very happy with us by the time we left that night. But
that happened just outside his office too. So
yeah, exactly. It was a great investigation. It was a really, really good investigation. Definitely, it was another bucket lister for me. It was in an area, a beach area that is extremely active. The whole area is active.
Oh, and God, the beach is crazy.
I know. And
making me jealous, guys. Just saying.
I'm telling you, Damon, we got to get you down here for one. Yeah. And it always was on my bucket list to come down here and do this. And I couldn't have been happier with the way things went. It was amazing. So it was great. Wow.
Heavy Meadow Detective has a question. Have you ever met or had a deceased pet? Contact in any way?
Sue? Hotel Saranac.
In the Hotel Saranac, there was always, as with any hotel, it's filled with emotion, both positive or negative. One of the floors was used at one time for permanent residence. And there was one room that was known to have issues with a cat. There was a woman that had died in there with her cat. She had put a do not disturb sign on the door, so nobody came to see her, check on the room until there was a foul odor coming from the room. They opened the door, found her dead. Cat's still alive. There's a couple stories on whether the cat was taken to the pet place or ran off. There's 3 different stories. However, working there for 8 years, had a housekeeping for 6. One of the biggest issues we had in that room, you'd make the bed up perfect, and there was this perfect circle on the corner of a bed, just like a cat would do. Or while you're making the bed, your leg would get swatted at like a cat would do. Mm-hmm. The other complaint was the people in either room on either side would complain about a pet being in that room because they could hear the scratching at the wall. Well, when we did the investigation, I kind of left that information out. And we were sitting in the room, and I went through, I made up some of the beds, purposely made that one, hoping that cat would show up. And yes, the cat showed up.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure we either have video evidence or photo evidence of it. And you have Sue in the background with that grin on her face, chuckling and giggling, saying, yes, it happened.
That's great.
One of our investigators was sitting on the floor, and she thought there was a child that had climbed up on her lap because she could feel the warmth of, like a small child kind of cuddling. Mm-hmm. And so I giggled, and I said, what about a cat? She goes, oh my God, yes, it could be a cat because she was sitting cross-legged on the floor. Yep. There you go.
Wow.
So, a lot of people in the chat just talking about their pets that have passed, and I guarantee you guys, once again, keep yourself open to it because they most definitely, my Jack has come back. I actually he was my best friend for 10 and a half years, and he passed at the age of 15. And just a year ago this past May, and I sleep to this day with his collar under my pillow every night, and I do truly believe that he is with me all the time. All the time.
Yep.
Yep. Tanner Banana's been with me. She's 14. I think she's going to be 15, and she's a Halloween baby.
Oh.
Nice.
So.
Just keep yourselves open to it, and they will come with you. They will come visit you.
You'll feel that warmth, like if it's a dog. This is what my dog does. She'll come and lay her head on my knee. I'll be doing, working on the computer or working somewhere. And you know how a dog will just...
Well, no, Tanner doesn't do that anymore. Tanner does this. I want your attention. Stop doing that stuff on your phone. I want your attention.
That's great.
Are you listening to me?
That's the thing.
So, let's see. Any other questions in the chat? Team Clambake said, I had spirit caress my face and I spit my coffee on the window of the restaurant we were eating at. Oh, my.
Yeah, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that explanation.
The pat on the head or the touch on the arm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else drag their significant others on vacation to haunted places? I do that.
Not yet, but I do want to go to Gettysburg.
Oh,
for sure.
Gettysburg is amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. I have been there a few times now, and my husband understands completely, but he still shakes his head. Every day that we're there in Gettysburg, we have to drive the battlefield once in the morning, then we can go do our things, and then we have to drive the battlefield once in the evening, every single day that we're down there. Mm-hmm. And I've had some really cool experiences down there. We were driving the car right near Devil's Den. Little Round Top was behind us, and we were just about perpendicular with Devil's Den, and we saw 3 young teenage boys walking towards us, half on the road and half off the road, with Civil War garb, a drum, a flag, and what looked to be a trumpet. And what's interesting is I believe that when you are doing any kind of reenacting, you have to sign in before you can just go and reenact. And there were no other reenactors on the battlefield that day. And they as we drove towards them, we slowed down. They didn't acknowledge us, didn't look at us. We drove past them. And to this day, I really, truly believe that we did see 3 young boys from the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's amazing. Just absolutely
several people that commented on that strange video clip that I captured said that they were from the Gettysburg area, and that's exactly or very similar to what they see on the Gettysburg battlefield.
Wow.
I was gonna say that situation has happened. I've heard that somebody else has said that too, Sandy. Because I remember listening to you talking about it on your podcast. I was like, wait, somebody else has said that too. That I know that they went to Gettysburg for a tour or something like that, and that happened. Maybe was it Josh? Maybe Sue? I feel like might have been Josh or one of our other members might have had that occur to him too.
Oh,
there have been people who have seen full battalions marching in the field. It's just unbelievable.
Cannonades. Yeah.
Yep.
Josh is one of our members that does reenactments.
Mm-hmm.
We have some huge battles that have gone on in upstate New York, between New York and Vermont and Canada, that whole section, during the Revolutionary War.
And South Canada, Sue. South Canada.
Oh, excuse me, South Canada. Forgive me. But
yeah, many of the people in the chat, or some of the people in the chat, went to Pound the Ground, which is upstate New York too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
where that was in Shazy, was major foot traffic for the Battle of Plattsburgh.
That's where I was going with that. Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Yes. There was forts that are no longer there. I think Fort Ticonderoga is really the only active fort that's still in existence. Still active, I should say.
Yeah.
Still being used.
The fort out by Rouse's Point is not the original Fort Blunder. It's actually the rebuild from where Fort Blunder used to be.
Yep.
And then that's the only other actual
There's
fort from
Fort
those
Montgomery, but there's nothing left to it but a few walls.
Yeah.
But Fort Ty, you can still do that. Actually, it was Fort Ty that I had one of my first experiences in when we went on a class trip.
I was going to say school trip. Yeah.
We went down into the dungeons, and there was one corner. I don't know why. It scared the crap out of me, and my best friend was with me. And I said, and she looked at me, she goes, "Do you see that?" I said, "Yeah, I see that." There was a guy sitting in the corner. Well, they had mannequins all over the place, and they were obviously mannequins. But there was a guy sitting in the corner, and he was all disheveled. He was muddy. He just looked, gone. And we looked at each other. We got out of there. We left our group, and a teacher got mad at us because we left the group. We were not going to stay.
Yeah.
See, she says that now, but then, but now she insists on going to the dark, creepy basements.
Exactly.
Dorothy Gal asked.
Now, if I knew then what I know now,
right? Exactly.
Right.
I would have had equipment with me. And
So you would have been holding my hand as we walk into the black mist together.
You betcha.
So, Dorothy Gal just asked, "Do you use salt for protection?" I don't personally. Sue.
I don't. The only reason I would use salt would be for cleansing either my stones, or making sure that not all stones you can put with salt, because some of them the salt will destroy them.
I was going to say there are some Wiccan practices that utilize salt, but not for protection, so to speak, more for cleansing.
Yeah,
I do sage. I try to sage my studio at least once a week, because it's where I spend a majority of my time. And
use sage, incense. Yeah.
Yep. Same idea. It's the intention is still exactly the same, and I think it's a really good idea to do it, especially when you do the kind of things that we do. It's very, very important to be able to do that kind of thing.
You do have to be careful, and again, it's that respect thing. I've been doing this for a while, and I've been around it all my life. So sometimes you get this overconfidence, and this kind of happened to me recently, last year. Sometimes you do run into really bad things. And I don't care what protection you have on you, if you're not ready to ward it off mentally,
right?
It will.
Sue speaks from experience.
Yeah.
We had an investigation, not this past Halloween, but the Halloween before. That still, no pun intended, haunts several of us, and we refuse to ever go back there, no matter how much you want to pay us. We will not go back there to investigate ever. It was that bad of a situation.
There was several buildings on the property, and there was, it was a lot like the church. You had some good stuff. You had some cranky. You had some sickly, which we knew going in. This is what we were dealing with. I had dealt with something while I was doing my research that had appeared to me that I'd never seen before, but I figured I've been able to brush it off before. I'll just follow the same rule of thumb. I should have listened to the little voices in my head that said, no. There was one building that was bad. There was some bad shit that went on there. Some experiments were done. Some things were done to people and animals. And it left a very, very bad negative energy there.
Yeah.
And I, walking into the black mist. Okay. Right. We were doing an EVP session. Dennis was there. Dennis's former team was there. And I felt that it was attacking my team because I could see where the questions were coming. There was parts of what I dealt with when this thing appeared to me that I didn't tell anybody else.
Yeah.
But during the EVP or during that we were having, it was coming out. So I challenged it. Not necessarily a good idea.
She poked the bear and crossed the streams all at the same time.
Yes.
Whoa.
It literally was to the point at that particular investigation where both of our teams, which were cohesive, very cohesive groups, and were actually cohesive together. Me and Sue came back from shutting one of the buildings down for the night, we came back into literally a almost knockout, drag out, balls for all brawl in the command center between members of Dennis's former team and some of our team. We're at each other's throat. That's how dark of a place that was. And still to this day, Sue still has instances of that entity, chasing her around. I still have issues shaking it off. And the problem with, like, for Sue and I, we both work in the town where we investigated that building at. Yeah. And there's ties to those buildings everywhere in town. So it likes to say, hey, how you doing, when you're not expecting it at any given time.
Yeah.
Right.
I think what it comes down to, at least for me, is that you just have to know your limitations.
Yep. Yeah, and that's it. And that's we're not indestructible.
Yeah.
And we're just human beings. And so no amount of protection or good vibes is going to stop something truly negative from affecting you. Mm-hmm. So you have to know your boundaries. You have to know your limitations. And you have to know when to say, I'm out of here. I can't do this. Enough is enough. This is beyond me.
The problem was with that one was we were so sucked into it. We weren't cognitive enough to say, okay, enough is enough and stop it. Right. Until it was already to the point of no return.
And we were already tired. Sandy, you know this. When you're doing an investigation where there's a lot of emotion, it's very draining.
Yeah, and it's hard to pull yourself back out of.
We were so enthralled in this. That was one of my biggest faults because I had to do more.
Yeah, and you learn as you go along. You can be the most seasoned investigator and still be learning something new each time you go out and you investigate. And I can say for myself that when I am done with an investigation, I am so incredibly drained that I can't even think straight. I literally can't even process everything that went on until at least the next day. And when it comes back to me, I've actually been on investigations where I've left and said, oh, we didn't get too much. And they've been some of the best investigations that I've ever been a part of because I can't even process at that point. I'm so drained.
And we said the same thing about the Russia Union Church. Literally, you cut out and said, okay, Dave and I are heading home. It was, it wasn't as eventful as I thought it was. And literally the next day, it's like bam, 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 bam.
Yeah. Yeah, everything came back. It floods back on me, and I'm like, oh my God, then this happened, and then once you process it, you're like, wow, this was incredible.
For me, it was almost a week of downtime after the church investigation.
I had a couple days.
The place we're talking about where it was so dark, it was a good month for me.
Yeah.
To get back out of it.
We had our shaman come in and help us out, and he helped me out. Will it ever be gone? Probably not.
And our biggest downfall was we did that one, and then literally the next weekend we did another investigation, another location. It was literally 3 weekends in a row of investigations, 2 weekends at that place, and then a third weekend at another place, and it just wiped us right the hell out. Outdoorsy Gal asked, do we have a YouTube channel? We do. We don't have any content on it yet. We're in the process of building it. I know Sandy has one with her podcast.
Yes, I do have a podcast, a paranormal podcast with my best friend Todd. He actually lives in Wisconsin, and I'm here in New York. And we do a video podcast as well as an audio podcast. It's called The Sandy and Toddcast. You can check us out on Facebook. We talk about all this stuff. Sue and Damon have been guests on our podcast before, and they will be again. So will Dennis again. And we talk about all kinds of things paranormal, honest opinions. It's a safe place for everybody to come and discuss. Mm-hmm. And one other point, I saw somebody mention something about still being skeptical. You be skeptical. I'm skeptical.
We invite skeptics.
Yes. My husband.
We have 3 skeptics on our team.
Yes. My husband, who was the world's biggest skeptic when we first started dating all those years ago and got together, is now a member of my team.
Yeah.
And
my husband is too. He's a skeptic. And I will have him help me do a review. I'll just knowing he knows nothing of the investigation, he knows nothing of the research. He's as pure as you get. I'll just flip the laptop around and say, what do you see?
Yes.
What do you see? My favorite line. You see anything?
Exactly.
And,
So-
and we have skeptics on the team for that reason. They keep
It's
us
good to
honest.
be I'm still a skeptic. Even after all of this, I am still a skeptic to a degree because I want to be able to know without a shadow of a doubt that my personal experiences and feelings can be validated with scientific readings so that I can get a complete picture, and that's how it should be. So if you're the least little bit skeptic, more power to you, because that's how
Absolutely.
you should be. You shouldn't believe everything that comes your way without and that's why we try to debunk anything that we
I was going
can.
to say, and that's why before we start, one or two of us of the team will go over and look at the situation first, or we do the client questionnaire to make sure that, can we debunk it? Like I said, was saying earlier, is it because they've got a drafty window and that's what keeps opening up the door? Let's debunk first. And then we'll take the next step.
I had an investigation, it never even led to an investigation. I had a client reach out to me and say, "Hey, I've got A, B, C, and D going on." We all loaded up for bear in the van and headed out. This is actually before the Hotel Saranac investigation, so this is like 2012, 2013. We went out there. Literally, I stepped out of the van and I felt the pressure and everything going on. I'm like, okay, this is weird. And I look over to my right, and no more than an eighth of a football field away is a cell tower. So right there, you're already blowing half of it out of the water because you're getting all the EMF radiation out the cell tower. And then the circumstances they had in the house were literally, I debunked them in 30 seconds with Google. One was a faulty circuit board on a washing machine. One was, one of those automatic lift lid trash can things that has a sensor. That there was recalls on that. I mean, most of the stuff they were having issues with recalls, and their feeling of being followed or watched, or the pressure that they were feeling. That would be your cell tower, literally half a block away.
Right.
And a lot of it,
fear cage.
A lot of it can be, explained away, and that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So
I would rather be able to do that, and then give them some peace of mind and walk out with a smile.
That's right.
And and that kind of goes back to where I've said Sue and I kind of are on the same page of we don't really do a lot of private residences. We've had circumstances in the past where it's a private residence, a client reaches out to us and says, "Hey, can you come check out our place? Because I know for certain so and so's here. I know it. Bottom of my heart, down to my toes, he's here." Again, it's a crapshoot. It's you don't know if you're going to get the same responses they get, and we've had several places where the clients have been like, "You guys are a bunch of frauds. You're phonies because you didn't find squat. I know he's here. You guys are full of it. Blah 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 blah." So we take our private residence investigations on a very much of a case by case level, because a lot of them, like our questionnaire to our client, is literally like 9 pages long, and there's a reason it's 9 pages long. Because it filters out those who are, just like, okay, I know for certain is here. The voices in my head are telling me that.
They want to have something like they see on TV.
Yeah, and that's the other thing to preface it too is
it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, it's not as glamorous as you see in TV, where we go and investigate. The next day we have an evidence report for you, and we've had a client like that. Like they were on us from literally 24 hours after the investigation was done until literally 3 months after we got the review, till we got the review done of where the heck's my report. It doesn't happen like that. All of us have 9 to 5s. We'd love to be paid to do what we do.
That would be nice.
But we don't. And you're talking, like our team, when we did that investigation, we had 8 cameras going. It was 6 hours per, 4 or 5, almost 6 hours per night that we ran. So that's, 8 cameras times, 12 hours of footage. Then you're talking all the handheld cameras, the audio recordings, the photos. That takes time, and
it can be pretty boring.
And it's daunting. You literally are like, huh? Like, sometimes. So it takes time, and that's what we try to tell our clients is, look, this is not going to happen overnight. This could take months.
Right.
We've even had members that we've had shouting matches with, on our team. Like, we need to have a 1 month turnaround time. There's no way you're going to have a 1 month turnaround time. I've yet to see an investigation where we've turned it around in a month.
No.
We might have some preliminary or initial, findings in the month, but it's not. We're not going to have a full report in a month's time. There's no way.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the thing where it's just like people have to have patience with what we do. It's not as glamorous as you see on TV.
Definitely.
At all.
No.
Definitely not.
Okay, there's a Joplin Holly. I was referred here by metal detecting with Randy. I was feeling lost and unwanted in the field I work in due to skeptics and unbelievers in God. I think I may have found a community or
someone that could potentially lead me into a YouTube community where I belong. Yeah, I would say, Sandy, I would put your link up for your Stay Weirdos page.
Yeah, we actually have, I think that Outdoorsy Gal put up our Facebook page if you scroll through, and she also put up our YouTube channel, but we also have a group called the Stay Weirdos, Friends of the Sandy and Toddcast. You can join it on Facebook, and it's a great community because everybody in there it's a very safe space. You can put your opinions, your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences in there. We all have a great time. We're all, we bust each other's chops, but there's never any meanness there. Everybody's very accepting. So I would say if you really want to join our group, do it because it's a lot of great people. Damon and Sue are in there as well. And we all just throw ideas around, and it's a lot of fun. Stay Weirdos, Friends of the Sandy and Tosk. Look at my face. They constantly harass me, especially Damon and Todd. They think it's funny to harass me constantly.
I feel your pain, honey.
Thank you, Sue. Yes. That's why I love Sue so much. Oh,
you got a friend in Sue.
Yeah.
Together.
Sue and I would walk through that black mist together. Just a quick explanation of the black mist. We were at an investigation, and Dennis and I were standing there together, and Dennis had a night vision camera in his hand, and he said, there is a dark spot in front of us. Do you want to walk in there and see what happens? And I didn't feel threatened in any way. So I said, yes, let me see. Without thinking, I said, yes, let me see what happens. So I walked into it, immediately felt cold. It was definitely a heavy pocket of residual energy, like a dark residual energy. Come to find out, it was in the same spot that we had seen a white apparition that evening. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fires in the restaurant. And I disappeared in it on Dennis's camera. He couldn't see me in the mist. And so
gee, Sue, that sound familiar?
They make fun of me now all the time for it, but
I don't know what they're talking about.
But I didn't feel threatened. It wasn't a malevolent energy. It wasn't an evil or negative energy. In that it was just mostly residual heavy energy from the things that had happened. There was a speakeasy in the basement at one point during Prohibition. There was a lot of stuff that went on down in that basement. So that's what they like to make fun of me about all the time. And I let them do it because, I probably shouldn't have run into the mist. Huh?
Sue likes to go into creepy basements, too. Or really, really small confined rooms lined with metal just for the fun of it,
Sandy, who went up in the attic? That was me.
That's right. That's right. I wouldn't even go in that attic.
Tell us what happened, Sue.
Well, when we were down in Sylvan Beach at the investigation where the chair got thrown, I go where I feel I'm drawn. And Damon's laughing at me because he knows.
Which could be dark, creepy spaces in the black pit.
Yes, it can be. And sometimes I poke the wrong bear. But anyways, that's a whole nother story.
Grizzly bear.
The grizzly bears, yes. And
giant laser beams.
We did get an AVP of a woman's voice up there. We did get a shadow up in the far corner of the attic, and you couldn't even walk around this attic. It was just one spot where there was three of us sitting. But I knew I had to go up there, and it's kind of like what started the whole investigation, the momentum of it going with the three of us up there. And then from there on, it was just constant all night long.
Yeah, I said no. I was like, no, thanks. I don't want to go up there. I'll stay down here with the boys. I'm in the other section. But that was actually where I had the interaction with who we believe to be the doctor, his wife. There was a female energy that came up to me and was very sad and guilt-laden. I feel my interaction, my conversation with her. Now, again, I don't hear voices. I just feel the emotions and put together the feelings, and ideas come to me. I believe that I did have a conversation with her about her guilt. They had a young son. I think he was about 17, wasn't he, Sue?
Yeah.
And he had died.
15.
He had been sick and died, and I felt like she felt guilt because the sanitarium that we were investigating was built to help people who were sick with the same thing that their son passed away from.
Yeah.
And I think that she, no pun intended, lived with that guilt throughout her life and in the afterlife.
Yeah.
And I think that's why she was still there, was because she just felt so guilty and so helpless that she couldn't save her son from the same thing that they were saving other people from.
In that hallway just off from where you were talking with her, that's where we smelt the antiseptic.
Yes. Yeah. It was crazy. Sylvan Beach, if you ever get a chance, if you're in the New York area, if you ever get a chance to go, just go. It's great. If you're the least bit sensitive, you can definitely feel the energy without a doubt. Without a doubt. Everywhere.
Yeah. Definitely a place I want to revisit as well.
Yes, without a doubt.
In regards to Sue poking the bear, we're talking about a person who literally will do male-only organizational ceremonies as a female just to see what kind of reaction she can get from said spirits who might have practiced those ceremonies themselves.
Speak of the devil, that came into play in Sylvan Beach as well. And
that's what I was referring to.
Yes, Sue actually did something that this group does as sort of a tradition. As you know, they enter a room. She did it. And I was reviewing the audio evidence after the fact and came across downstairs in the same room where the chair was thrown, came across 3 distinct knocks on the wall, sort of, flipping us off, so to speak, saying, yeah, you know what? I'm not only going to throw a chair, but now you're getting your 3 knocks in reply. So, yeah.
But again, you weigh the situation as you go in. I'm not always poking the bear. But it's give. If they're giving me crap, I'm going to feed it back. Yep. Not in a rude way, but just to let them know, okay, you're not playing with the same.
Clearly not taking the paranormal high ground. Clearly not.
No. But that's why it's good to go in with confidence, not cockiness, but confidence, because that'll help protect you as well if you go in with confidence in yourself.
And that's not to say we haven't gone in to purposely trigger something either. Granted, one of our investigations was a very accidental trigger, which led to some really awesome results.
You mean the lighter?
Yeah. It wasn't awesome for the person that it happened to, but for the rest of us watching, it was fantastic. But we try not to. If we're going into with the intentional purpose of triggering something, we know what we're doing ahead of time, and we have the confidence that we can back it up or protect ourselves if we do it.
We don't start off that way. We come in gradual.
Yeah, we don't ever come in, like you see on. I hate to throw this out there, and Sandy knows where I'm going, but Ghost Adventures, like automatically, like chest puffed out, like I'm gonna fight you. Come at me. Let's go.
No.
We come in very, very quiet. We come in like a lamb, and we pretty much go out like a lion. By the time we're done. Like for instance, it was a very gentle trigger that we did at the Hotel Saranac when we did it the last time. We were in the grand ballroom. We set up one of the dining room tables for tea service, and one of the instructors at the Hotel Saranac, when it was still a teaching hotel, was taught proper etiquette and table settings.
Yep.
So Sue went and said, watch this, and literally went and like turned a teaspoon like a quarter turn to the left and moved a napkin just right, and we took a picture of the whole thing. Now, hindsight being 2020, we probably should have put a camera there too to record it in real time. We came back down because all of us had left. We came back down from the 3rd or 4th floor, and it was set perfectly, like it was just somebody had just literally set up for tea.
Yep.
And I addressed her directly when I set it up. Did I do this right? Or is there anything messed up? Because I don't know what I'm doing. And then we all went upstairs.
With that shit-eating grin on her
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
yeah, I mean, we do trigger, but there's a reason for what we do, and we do it in a safe manner.
Well, even
Both
at the Russia investigation, there was an old schoolhouse built around the same time that this one was. That was torn down about 2 miles from my house, and my father had acquired the original handheld school bell from the schoolhouse. So I thought that would be a fantastic trigger object to have for the schoolhouse.
Sure, it was
So
great. Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
it worked great. I had somebody go outside and ring the bell a few times at different times of the night. Again, that's your trigger object, not meant for anything vile, but meant to, hey, here's this bell. Do you recognize the sound of it? Does
Right.
it, and kind of open up that door. Is this familiar to you?
The problem with the bell was not only did it trigger the paranormal, we had a former English teacher on our team that you gave her some little bit of PTSD when you rang the bell. You're going to put it out
Oh,
there.
no. Oh, my.
Sorry, John.
But yeah, we do it in a controlled environment. We don't go in there and just like
Right.
you see on Ghost Adventures and I'm gonna fight all you guys, and
They go
You
in
know.
with guns blaring, and that really isn't.
Yeah.
That's
they
great
take a
for
bazooka
TV.
to a knife fight. Is
Exactly,
what they do.
exactly. It's good
It's
for
great- it's
TV,
great for
but
TV.
it's
Yeah.
not real life. It's not
Yeah.
how you really should be
Yeah.
doing it.
We come in very slow and gradual.
Yeah.
We only get to triggers when we literally nothing else is working.
You truly have to feel out the environment before you
Yes.
make any decisions.
Yes.
If you go into something and, it doesn't seem like that is the thing that you should be doing that night, then you don't do it. If it feels like you're at the point like we did at the church, when we all gathered upstairs, we knew it was time. We needed to challenge this entity, and we did. And
it was a challenge.
yeah,
We did.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
But the way,
it's like
the way
we'll
I
show up to
look
an
at it,
investigation with 20 cases worth of equipment and probably only use maybe 2 cases or 3 cases worth of equipment, and the rest of it just sits on the wayside.
Yep.
It's all on the temperature and the climate of the investigation.
it's kind of like going into a large situation, a large group. Let's say you're going to a family gathering. There's going to be a lot of strangers there, people but people you don't know. You don't come in with guns a-blazing. You come in, kind of feel the situation out.
Right.
Is this a group that I want to hang with? Is this a group that's going to kind of try to talk down? Are they going to ridicule? And it's the same way, because these spirits were people once.
Right.
So, when you're coming in, you got to remember they have emotions just like you and I do.
Yep.
And if you come in guns a-blazing, they're just going to shut you out.
Yeah.
And we've had members where we've had to have talking to with the members.
Yes.
We had to explain to members, look, the spirits that are here know what you're about before you walk in the door. If you walk in all standoffish, it's not you're not showing the respect to those who are not with us anymore, who are still residing there. We had a member who specifically was always standoffish, and it showed at the investigations because she would literally kill a room.
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended. She'd walk in, like I was in the middle of a dowsing rod session, and we were getting intelligent responses. Everything was going great. She walked in the room. The minute that happened, it was literally like, like those cartoons where things just go limp, like the shotgun barrel goes limp, and that's literally what happened. Like the energy just went from the dowsing rods. There was nothing.
Yep.
You literally felt it just go, like the curtain was drawn.
It was like, bam,
Wow.
jukebox screeched to a halt. Everybody was like, huh? And that was it. And then, we're back to the beginning of it. You got to show respect for where you're at and
100%.
who you're investigating and who you're investigating with.
And the whole idea of this, for us at least, is to help. We want to understand. We're people who, all of us have had experiences. We all might have other abilities. And so this is a big part of your life. and you want to understand and you want to help. I mean, I feel personally like I have connections with the spirits and the energies that I encounter during an investigation, and you just want to help them. However that comes, whatever that is, you want to be there for them.
Yeah, and that's what happened when I research. I get that connection
exactly
I normally wouldn't have. And then when I show up, oh, it's you. So yeah.
Yep.
My connections are not, I don't get them ahead of time. Literally, and Sandy kind of saw this firsthand, and Sue has seen this a bunch of times. I'll walk through either right beforehand or during, and I'll just stop and be like, okay, yeah, we need to go here, we need to go here, we need to go here. And then, like, if I'm doing a dowsing rod session, literally, like Sandy likes to do, I'll go in cold. Mm-hmm. And then literally in the middle of my dowsing rod session, where I don't know, anything from Adam when it comes to what, like, Sue or the rest of the people are asking questions about. And literally I've got questions popping in my head in regards to what's going on. And it's to the point where literally I'm getting responses in the dowsing rods before I finish the question coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
That's how connected I get.
Yeah.
And it's happened a couple times. Like, literally, I'll literally be like, okay, hold on a second. Let's reset. Let's try this again. Can you please be patient? Wait for me to finish verbally asking.
He gets giggles
when
he's thinking it, and nobody's asked the question, and they're already responding to him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
It literally gets a very strong connection, like, to the point where one of our former members literally saw, like, orange coming off my dowsing rods one time. That's how strong the connection the energy was.
Wow.
And thank you once again to Outdoorsy Gal for putting up all of our links and everything. And I see Ghost Pubs and Grub in there. That is some of the investigations we've been talking about tonight are on that page. Yep. It's Ghost Pubs and Grub on Facebook. The link's right in there, and you can check out some of the videos. The one that Sue and I were on together, also in Sylvan Beach, also the one that we did at the restaurant that I told some stories about. I believe the EVP, Mr. and Mrs. White EVP, is on there as well. And a third investigation we did where I got some pretty amazing. It was a crazy ride. So all three of those are on there.
Outdoorsy Gal had a couple questions. How did we get the permission to investigate the church? That was through Dennis. He didn't divulge to us how we got the permission, so I can't really elaborate on that.
Well, I know he had investigated it prior.
Yeah, his prior team, his former team, had investigated it, and I know that was it was a revisit. And I believe they reached out to Dennis directly, and he said his team would do it, and kind of told us we were helping him with that one.
Yeah, we were hoping that Dennis could have come tonight, but he got called into a meeting at work the last minute.
Yep. And then the second question Outdoorsy Girl had was books available. So Dennis Webster has many books already online for sale. You can actually find them on Amazon, several of them. Unfortunately, several of his books are out of print at the moment due to one of the publishers closing due to COVID. So the new publishing companies is taking up the rights and are starting to reprint them, but they're not available yet. Yeah, Sue's holding up one of his books right there, which is Haunted Old Forge. Yep. Actually, there's an honorable mention of the church in, I believe, that book, or maybe it's Haunted Utica, Mohawk Valley. I can't remember.
Sure.
Yeah, that one. So those books are available.
And one of the great things, Damon, one of the great things about Dennis is he actually investigates all the places in his book. Yep. He doesn't just write about them, he investigates them. So he has firsthand personal experiences that he puts into his
He doesn't
books.
write the hearsay. He literally writes out what he investigates and what his team members investigate. Yeah. And I know, Sandy, you're doing collaborations with his most current book that he's writing now.
Yes.
From your perspective on stuff. And I know his former partner in crime, Bernadette, she used to do her take on several of the investigations in the former books that Sue just held up. And I know the church investigation and our team will be featured in the upcoming book, which will be released, I believe, September. right? Is that the date?
Well, he has a new one coming out in September. I think I think our church investigation
church will be in the next one. Yeah, Haunted Central New York.
Yes, the one that I'm collaborating with too.
Yeah.
So that'll be something to really look forward to because that's going to be an amazing book. But the one he's got coming out beginning of September, I believe it is Haunted Adirondacks. Yeah.
And we've got, I believe, 3 or 4 of A.P.P.S has 3 or 4 investigations in that book.
That's awesome.
Which will be featured, which is pretty big. That's a big step for us as well. Cool. So so yes, there are books available, mostly through Dennis. Again, if you search for Dennis Webster on Amazon, he's got several really good ones out there that we all we kind of take a liking to. And again, as far as the YouTube channel, we do have one up. We just haven't really gotten off the ground with it yet. It's there. It's just kind of back burner at the moment until we get things moving a little bit more fluidly.
Right. Well, I want to thank you all for coming tonight. We've got 5 minutes before Flash in your pan.
Yep.
A friend of mine starts his live stream. I definitely want to have you guys back because
definitely.
I want to have a live stream with all of you and then bring up throughout maybe a 2-hour period metal detectors on YouTube that have had experiences.
Yeah.
That would like your advice.
And it's been happening an awful lot more lately. I've seen several of the channels that you and I both follow, Deej, where a couple of our
we're seeing a lot of stuff. Mark DeBerg Hunter's had an experience.
Yeah.
Admonish had an experience.
Yeah, there's been a few.
Not right. Johnny probably has too, but I don't know for sure. There's several of us. I'm trying to think. If you look back at my video, my Halloween video last year, it was my Halloween special, and I invited YouTubers, metal detectorists that have had weird experiences to tell their story.
Nice.
And I want to involve those people and maybe have them ask you some questions.
Yeah, definitely. We'd be all for it.
Definitely. It all goes hand in hand. It really does. History, the whole thing.
Right. And if anybody is in need of somebody to talk to about getting their first metal detector, Ray is in the chat, Michigan Metal Detectives.
Yep.
Contact him on Facebook and he can hook you up with what you need.
He's our dealer.
It did kind of sound that way.
He has definitely hooked us up a bunch.
He's our sponsor.
I'll argue. Yes.
So,
just thank you to everybody in the chat too. You guys have been amazing.
You guys
amazing. My moderators and for everybody that attended, I appreciate your support. And we will see you Friday.
Thanks, guys.
So have a good night.
Good night.
Bye, guys.